have a horrible feeling that we're seeing a breakdown in plain sight. I just, the movements, the way they move, the way they talk is so erratic.
Meghan back on royal property.
Yeah, no one is as horrified as I am. I am curious to know your take here. There's two ways we can look at this, okay? I look at it appalled, because I feel like, in a way, it's giving Harry and Meghan exactly what they want. Credibility. It erases the hurt that they've caused over the last 6 years. They've not said I'm sorry publicly.
Harry and Meghan are desperate. They are trying to retrieve their situation sufficiently so that they will become bankable once more.
And you didn't prove your case. You had the opportunity to prove your case. You failed to do so. That's how the legal system works. Yes, no, he's never seen a situation in which he is not the victim, and he enjoys being the victim.
The fact is, they can pop in and have tea. I hope they had Highgrove jam, which is far better than the Meghan slop that she calls spread. So I got to taste what real produce tastes like from the Highgrove shop.
Meghan Markle thought nobody would ever find out she was back in Britain. She was wrong. Within hours, the whole world knew, and the backlash was so brutal that palace insiders are now using a word they've never dared use before: breakdown. And that's just the beginning.
What she said is exactly right. It's a complete breakdown of the marriage, of Harry's mental stability. Like, nothing's working out for them. How can it? I mean, you just have ulterior motives to do things that you want, and you're not getting it, and so you're losing your minds. Your lives are completely falling apart. It's going to get worse and worse. The more they try to brand and get out there to do all these different things to make money, the worse it's going to get. They're a complete disaster.
Let's start with the promise, because Meghan Markle made one, remember? She was done with Britain, done with the royal family. She would never ever set foot in this country again. Not without an apology, not without full armed security. Well, funny how things change.
Meghan returning to the UK, the country she claims she hates, is a sign of defeat. And it is a sign that they are desperate, and they do need money, and they do need proximity to the British royal family so that they can try to attract new opportunities.
That's really true. So on the one hand, they've won because they're back on royal property. On the other hand, it's a mission of defeat that she tried to go it alone and be Meghan Inc., and it didn't work.
She would not be here if everything had... If she still had to record Confessions of a Female Founder, if she had a new season of With Love Meghan to shoot, if she was actually working on Meet Me at the Lake, The Wedding Date, or this new Afghanistan movie, Meghan Markle would not have the time to come crawling back to King Charles and Queen Camilla.
Because last week, Meghan Markle slipped quietly into the United Kingdom. No announcement, no cameras, no fanfare. A completely private family visit, we were told. And then something very strange happened. Within hours, this private visit was on the front page of every newspaper on the planet. The BBC had it. People magazine had it.
This will be a private moment from the firm's point of view, but it might not be so private for Meghan and Harry. You just have to worry that this could be more material for another Netflix documentary or a future book.
Well, yes, that you've always got that sort of hanging over the royal family's head, because if it was a frosty meeting, you don't know.
And one of you put it absolutely perfectly in the comments, and I have to read it out because I couldn't say it better myself. A meeting so private, they had to send a press release to every news outlet around the world to announce a private meeting. 900 people liked that comment. 900, because you all saw exactly what was going on. So the question becomes, who leaked it? The palace says it wasn't them. The Sussexes, of course, say it wasn't them either. But here's a detail almost everyone missed.
It's also been conditional, evidently, on no publicity, no, blah, 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 no leaking. Let's put it like that, no leaking. The last time there was leaking, they have evidently been informed that there can be no leaks, and if there are leaks, there will be consequences. And Harry and Meghan understand that they need the facade of reasonably good relations with the king and queen.
We've been down this road before. When the last so-called palace leak happened, the famous Clarence House meeting journalist Charlotte Griffiths later revealed exactly who had briefed her. It wasn't the palace at all. It was Meghan and Harry's own PR team. They planted the story themselves and then performatively complained about it and blamed the king's staff. Same playbook, same fingerprints.
We know from Charlotte Griffiths, and the amazing piece in the Daily Mail, victory lap for Charlotte Griffiths, by the way, saying, of course, that she was briefed by the Sussexes and their PR people, the balcony moment and the build-up to the Clarence House face-to-face summit. It goes in the paper, which is what the Sussexes want, and then they performatively complain and blame the palace for a story that they've planted themselves.
But hold on, because the timing of this trip is what really gives the whole game away. To understand why Meghan Markle suddenly abandoned 6 years of promises and came crawling back to Britain, you have to rewind exactly 7 days. Because 7 days earlier, Harry's entire world had collapsed.
Do not lose sight of the fact that this has been a catastrophic week for the Sussexes. My take on it is, if Harry had have won, would he have pushed as hard for a reconciliation with his father? Think about that. If you'd have got 50 million rather than losing 50 million, and it's not that much, but you know, that's the speculation, but it's actually a lot less than that. But just place that in your mind. Would Harry have been so keen?
Picture the scene, a London courtroom. Prince Harry, the self-declared dragon slayer, taking on the Daily Mail in the biggest legal gamble of his life. He'd spent years on this. He told the world he was fighting for truth, fighting for his mother's memory, and then the judgment landed. 400 pages. 400.
He couldn't have lost bigger. In his court case against newspapers in the UK, multiple 100-page judgment, basically didn't win a single count. Now he may have to pay millions.
Paul, it's yet another instance of Harry playing the fake victim.
He didn't win a single count. Not one. The judge said Harry had assumptions, not evidence. The Daily Mail's journalists took the stand one by one and dismantled his claims piece by piece. And now comes the bill. Because in Britain, unlike America, the loser pays. And commentators are throwing around a number that should make your jaw drop. 50 million pounds. 50 million.
They would have had to make a significant contribution to Associated Newspapers' costs. And remember, as Paul Dacre has said, the costs are in excess of 50 million pounds. Trying to settle if you're not going to have the other side have an advantage just is not going to work.
Now here's the part that makes it so much worse. According to reporting in The Telegraph, Harry tried to settle at the 11th hour, quietly, desperately, and the Mail looked him dead in the eye and refused. They wanted their day in court.
Telegraph reported that he tried to settle this case right before.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Shows how desperate he was. And it was £750,000, which will be, what, circa $900,000 roughly? In US dollars?
It's a lot.
Something like that. So that was January 24. He had to pay the Daily Mail's legal costs approaching $1 million.
Lady Colin Campbell put it beautifully. The Mail is very good at staring you down, and they stared down Harry, his celebrity co-claimants, and his flamboyant lawyer David Sherborne, who, by the way, has gone awfully quiet since the verdict. So what does Harry do after this humiliation? Does he take the loss with dignity? Take it, as Megyn Kelly said, like a grown-up? No.
Take your licks like a professional. That's the lesson these two have never learned. It's none of your business what other people think of you. Take your licks like a grown-up and go on living your beautiful life. If you and whine and sue about it all the time, people hate you. And the press that buys ink by the barrel is only more incentivized to loathe you and to feed the people who loathe you with more negative stories. So it's just the reality of being a public figure. You've got to take it like a grown-up. Stop suing people who have endless supply of time and anger toward you.
He releases a furious statement calling the verdict a whitewash. Think about what that means. He publicly attacked the king's own courts, his father's judiciary, the oldest and most respected justice system in the world. And 3 days later, 3 days his father poured him tea. But that tea, my friends, came with conditions. And when you hear what reportedly happened behind the gates of Highgrove, you'll understand this was never a reconciliation.
Is this going to be a great reconciliation? And all of a sudden, Harry and Meghan are right back in there. I'm afraid my understanding is that's not what's going to happen. People have long memories. They know what Meghan and Harry are capable of. This is a way of neutralizing them. The royal family normally plays the long game.
It was something else entirely. Before we even get to the meeting itself, understand how this week started for Harry. He reportedly assumed he'd be staying at Buckingham Palace like the old days. And according to Neil Sean's palace sources, the answer that came back was essentially, there's no room at the inn.
Basically, they carried on until they got somebody to actually answer the phone and confirm in person, and then followed this up by an email to say that no, that you couldn't come here. You see, the idea really was to spin the fact that Harry was going to turn up at Buckingham Palace. He thought he'd booked it all over the previous weekend and was going to be there, maybe looking a bit like Dick Whittington, with a stick over the shoulder and the spotted hanky. Suddenly couldn't get a room at the inn for the night. Now, as the palace pointed out to me, they were more than happy, and the king was more than happy to accommodate him as and when he needs this. But the stipulation was that ultimately he had to make sure he got organized well in advance.
The king's own son turned away from the palace he grew up in and told to make his own arrangements. He ended up at a private members club. And why no Windsor, you ask? Because Prince William, who controls a great deal more than people realize, reportedly wasn't having it. Not on his estate. Not ever. So that's the mood before anyone even poured the tea. Now, the palace will tell you the meeting itself was a warm family reunion. A grandfather meeting his grandchildren. But according to royal insiders, and I'm talking about Lady Colin Campbell and Neil Sean, who both have deep sources inside that world, the reality was ice cold. First, the visit lasted less than an hour. Less than an hour after flying 11 hours across the Atlantic. And tea, as Lady C explains, is what royals serve when they want a meeting to be civil, short, and shallow. No long conversations, no heart-to-hearts.
Tea is one of the ways where, when you do not particularly want to have much of an interaction with somebody, but you want it to be civil and civilized, you have tea. It's short, it's sweet, it's to the point, and it does not allow for in-depth conversation. And certainly, the fact that they were there for less than an hour should tell you something as well.
In and out. Second, and this is the detail that tells you everything, their phones were reportedly confiscated at the door. Taken, every device. According to these accounts, they were checked for recording equipment before they were allowed anywhere near the king. Think about that. His own son, searched like a security risk. Third, Harry was reportedly summoned in first, alone, while Meghan Markle, the woman who demands to control every room she enters, was left waiting outside with the children, like an afterthought. And then there's Camilla. Oh, Camilla! Because reports say Harry specifically asked for her not to be there. This is the woman he trashed in his book, called dangerous, called a villain. And what did she do? She sat down beside her husband and never left his side. Not for 1 minute. The entire visit, Queen Camilla sat 3 feet away, watching Harry like a hawk. Say what you want about her, but that is a wife guarding her husband, and I suspect a lot of you watching understand that instinct completely.
But a sanctuary for King Charles, all of his life, all of Harry's life, that was the escape when they would go for weekend.
Highgrove.
Highgrove.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Such an intimate place.
Exactly.
And Charles has got his geraniums and his daisies and his rosy, chrysanthemums, whatever it is.
You see, the daffodils are not very intelligent, but the geraniums are very wise, you see, Camilla.
So it's very strange what's happened.
Any photographs taken, they belong to the crown. not to Netflix, not to Instagram. And according to Lady C, the couple were given one crystal clear warning. If a single detail of this meeting leaks, there will be consequences.
Evidently, the King and Queen did what the late Queen did and said, no photos. They don't want to be used, supposedly. Let us see what happens down the line. Because this is evidently a test. And if Harry and Meghan pass the test, there will be another meeting. And if they don't pass the test, they will have to wait a very much longer time.
This was, in her words, the last chance saloon. TalkSport's Robert Bell did find one silver lining though. At least, he said, they got to taste proper Highgrove jam, which, in his words, is far better than the Meghan slop she calls spread. And honestly, after the week she'd had, that might have been the kindest thing anyone said about her. But while Meghan was sipping the king's tea behind those gates, there was one man watching all of this from thousands of miles away. A man who has never been given a single hour, not one. His name is Thomas Markle, and I want you to really sit with his story for a moment, because this is the part of this whole circus that I genuinely cannot get past.
The burning question, it really does absolutely fascinate me, and I don't know if you feel the same way, is why Harry has never questioned any of this particular story. What on earth did Meghan Markle tell him from the very off, which basically meant, of course, that he couldn't turn up at the wedding and has no contact with him whatsoever.
Thomas Markle worked as a lighting director in television, long hours, night shifts, and by every account, he poured everything he had into his youngest daughter. He paid for the private schooling, he paid for the acting classes, the education, the opportunities. The career Meghan Markle's entire path to that palace was paved by her father's paychecks.
She's always used men to take her to the next level, whether it was Thomas Markle, Trevor Ingleson, or Prince Harry.
It's a really good point.
Our
Piers
favorite feminist.
Morgan, when she was in the
Piers
UK.
Morgan, our favorite feminist.
Oh, I know. That's right. She talks about being a role model to little girls, which is, yeah, marry a rich prince.
Today, Thomas Markle is in his 80s. He has survived heart attacks. He has survived strokes. He recently lost a leg. And he has never met his grandchildren. Not once. He has never even met Harry. His own son-in-law has never shaken his hand. Now here's the comparison that should stop you cold. Meghan flew 11 hours to have tea with Harry's father.
What about Thomas Markle? Does he not get a look in? If she's so keen, you know, Harry, with his father recovering from cancer and still having treatment, you know, the other side, you know, repair the family connections.
Her own father lives roughly a 2-hour flight from Montecito, 11 hours for the father with the crown and the castles, not 2 hours for the father with the prosthetic leg and the broken heart. And I know exactly what many of you are thinking because you say it in the comments every single week. One grandfather is a king.
Thomas Markle says hi.
Well, I know. Because Thomas is the elephant in the room, of course. And you've identified that if we're going to like get families back together and life's too short, blood is thicker than water, hello,
Yeah.
Meghan's father.
Yes.
So you're absolutely right. Of course, it ain't going to happen, is it? By the way, is Thomas Markle back in the United States?
The last I heard reported was that he needed some help in navigating this new life with his prosthetic leg.
The other is a pensioner with no money and no title. And only one of them got a visit. As one of you wrote, and 1,400 of you agreed, they won't visit Thomas Markle because he isn't rich. Ask yourself honestly, if your own daughter did that to you, if you'd given her everything, and she wouldn't even answer the phone while you learned to walk again, could you ever make sense of it?
You see, what you've now done is effectively run and rub sort of very cruelness, if you like, in Thomas Markle's circle, whichever way you look at it. Unless, of course, the king, and we don't know this, and I certainly don't know this at this point, unless the king has instructed that Harry makes contact with Thomas Markle. I think that's going to be a problem because as these two invariably parade that story, which they will do, make no mistake about it, somewhere, somehow, somebody will get the story.
Because a lot of you watching are grandparents. Some of you know the pain of estrangement personally, and that's why this cuts so deep. Thomas Markle isn't a headline. He's every parent's worst fear, growing old in real time. And there's a darker prediction circulating among royal watchers, one many of you have voiced too. The fear that the real story about Thomas will only ever be told once he's no longer here to defend himself. I pray that's wrong. But with this family's track record, nobody would be surprised. And if you think Thomas is the only family member who feels betrayed this week, Prince William found out about this meeting the same way you did. Here's the timing that royal insiders say has poisoned everything. The very weekend Charles was serving tea to the Sussexes, Prince William and Princess Catherine were across the country at a charity polo match, raising money, doing the job, doing their duty. By multiple accounts, the future king was completely blindsided. William, reports say, wants nothing to do with his brother. No meeting, no handshake.
Prince William and Catherine do not want anything to do with it because they believe that they cannot be trusted. That's my perception, not their words, but that's what I believe, right? As it goes further down, I think they won't be able to resist themselves because Meghan's had this bite of the cherry before and she made a spectacular mess of it.
Nothing. And can you blame him? This is the brother who mocked his hair loss in print. The brother whose allies spread poison about Catherine online while she was privately battling cancer and trying to find the words to tell her 3 young children.
In reality, we find out Catherine has realized she has cancer, and she's quietly trying to navigate that cancer and how to tell her 3 small children, while Harry and Meghan's friends are stirring the pot and creating absolute chaos and devastation around them. And King Charles, you're going to welcome this family into your home.
But it's not really William I want to talk about. It's his grandmother. Because Queen Elizabeth made one thing absolutely clear at the Sandringham summit. No half in, half out. You are either a working royal or you are not. That was her rule. Her final boundary. And this week, her son tore it up over a pot of tea.
Does this put us in a situation where there is a constitutional crisis? How long can the king, who has been incredibly generous in extending the olive branch and allowing them to have and retain those titles, when I think we've moved so far from the Sandringham summit and what was agreed then?
And your comments this week, honestly, they move me. A lifelong monarchist, 72 years old, writing, I have always been a monarchist, but no more. Another viewer, what Harry and Meghan did to the Queen and Prince Philip before they died, Charles is insane to let them visit.
What sticks in the craw for me, Rupert, is what a public relations triumph this is for the Sussexes, a couple that have done so much damage to the royal family.
400 people agreed with her. Because you remember, don't you? You remember Prince Philip's final months. You remember our queen sitting alone in black at her husband's funeral. And you remember exactly which couple was tormenting her in the press during those final years, the Oprah interview, the accusations, the endless attacks while she was too dignified to ever answer back. One commenter called them elderly abusers. Harsh words, but 400 of you pressed like. And now the man the late queen trusted to protect her legacy has rewarded all of it.
And I think that this is a wild betrayal
I agree.
of those loyal members of the royal family who have suffered at the hands of the Sussexes, most notably William and Catherine, but also Charles and Camilla, both
But
of
let's
whom
not forget
have been
Queen Elizabeth,
cast
Prince.
so negatively. And that's exactly right. There are those figures who aren't even here now to defend their legacy, who have been damaged by what the couple have done. It's a reward for bad behavior.
There are viewers in Australia talking about leaving the Commonwealth over this. There were even reports of boos as the Sussex car approached the meeting. And one of you summed up the whole sorry affair in 3 words that deserve to be carved in stone. The king got markled. So why? Why would Charles cave now after holding firm for so long? Well, one royal insider claims a desperate phone call was made the night before this meeting, and it wasn't from Harry.
Harry and Meghan have been planting all these stories because they are desperate. They are in the last chance saloon and they understand it.
According to royal commentator Neil Sean, here is what allegedly happened. The night before the Highgrove meeting, Meghan Markle herself contacted the palace. Her message? That Harry was falling apart after the court verdict, that he needed his father. That reportedly is what finally opened the door.
Charles does not want Harry coming with the begging bowl. He understands that Meghan and Harry need this visit to top up their saleability internationally, especially in the United States.
Now pair that with what PR expert Jackie Vore said this week, words that sent a chill through everyone who heard them. I have a horrible feeling that we're seeing a breakdown in plain sight. She described the erratic behavior. Statements contradicting each other within days. We're coming. We're not coming. "We're bringing the family, we can't. It's too dangerous," throwing his toys out of the pram, in her words, whenever the press didn't dance to his tune.
You cannot use press on your whim. You can't use press as a tool to satisfy your whim. You work with the press. It's a symbiotic relationship. And this is where Harry gets it so wrong. He's attacking the press and then wanting the press to leak stories so that he can get his way with his security. It's just so erratic. And I do worry that he isn't operating correctly.
And Megyn Kelly went even further. "He was wrong," she said of the court case. "He's got a sixth sense of paranoia," and she made a point that landed like a hammer. If this crusade were truly about his mother's death, he'd be supporting Mothers Against Drunk Driving because Diana was killed by a drunk driver, not a newspaper. Instead, he sues journalists and loses. Remember the famous near-catastrophic car chase through New York? Megyn Kelly reminded everyone what that actually was. Not a swarm of paparazzi, one man on a Vespa, one dude on a Vespa, and they turned it into a Hollywood thriller. That's the pattern, isn't it? Everything inflated, everything dramatized.
Also artificial. Nothing is real with this couple, is it?
Yes,
Everything's confected, everything's stage managed.
This is the nanny agency concerned about placing people with the Sussexes because of their reputations. It's them
The nanny agency has a duty of care and is worried about the welfare of the nannies.
Yes.
Because they're going to have to work under Meghan, who is a notoriously harsh boss.
Until a judge finally looked at the evidence and said no. And here's the detail that royal watchers can't stop whispering about. Through this entire catastrophic week, the court loss, the humiliation, the headlines, Meghan Markle never once stood beside her husband in public. Not at Invictus, not after the verdict, nowhere. Whatever happened, as the old song goes, to stand by your man? Insiders say the couple aren't even on the same page anymore, that Meghan was sick of the lawsuits years ago, and Harry simply couldn't stop.
She doesn't tend to, if the publicity's not good, she's the last person in the world who's going to put her head above the parapet to support him. She's always fawning how much he dotes on her and always all this sort of stuff. But it tends to be quite often a bit one-way street as far as that's concerned.
Yes, and it could be a bit cultural, Rupert. Americans don't like losers.
Which is why royal watchers have started asking the question out loud, the one nobody dared ask before. How long does this marriage actually have left?
I believe that Harry and Meghan will divorce. And I don't think it will be anytime soon, but it will happen. And it's when Meghan calculates that Harry is no longer of any use. And at the moment, it's not looking good for him.
But the Canadian court system says 10 years is what she...
Well, and wasn't that what you told me the other day?
Yeah.
That we're waiting for the 10-year rule, which is, from memory, they married in, was it 2018?
Yes.
So 2 more years.
Here's a theory circulating among royal commentators, and once you hear it, you can't unhear it. It's called the 10-year rule. Under California law, the length of a marriage matters enormously in a divorce settlement. The Sussexes established their life in California around 2020 or 2021. Do the math. Commentators like Kinsey Schofield believe Meghan is simply waiting, watching the clock. And here's the twist that will make your blood boil. If they divorce, she reportedly keeps the title, Duchess of Sussex.
And when they divorce, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
She remains the Duchess of Sussex.
Just like nasty Fergie Duchess of York.
People don't realize that.
Yeah.
And that's why I think Meghan might hesitate to remarry straight away, because she'd lose Duchess. I think she'll be clinging on to that title for dear life. So I think maybe a courtship with maybe one of those Silicon Valley billionaires.
Yeah.
For life, just like Fergie kept Duchess of York. And publishing insiders claim a post-divorce memoir, Meghan My Story, could fetch double what Spare earned. We're talking $50–60 million. The Betrayal monetized one final time. Meanwhile, the next flashpoints are already forming. Whispers of a late summer invitation to Balmoral, the estate Meghan reportedly hated, all that hunting and shooting, even talk of Christmas at Sandringham. And sources close to the Waleses suggest that if the Sussexes appear on that famous Christmas morning walk, William and Catherine simply will not be there.
Would be a Christmas reunion. Now, I don't know how that would play out with William and Catherine. And, that walk, the famous walk on Christmas morning, that's not going to be very nice, is it? But as I said, the problem that you have with somebody like the King, William is the only person that doesn't technically have to do what he says. You know, as the monarch in waiting, he can actually do what he wants, and in turn, so can Catherine, the Princess of Wales.
The future king, boycotting his own family Christmas. That's where we are. But remember Lady C's warning about the Highgrove meeting. One leak and the door slams forever. So set your watch, everyone. Because in 6 years, these two have never not once kept a secret in their lives.
I suspect, I could be wrong, that Meghan and Harry might have finally learned enough of a lesson to honour the terms of the meeting. If they don't, they're going to live to regret it, I am assured.
One meltdown, one secret trip, one furious future king, and a father in his 80s, still waiting by a phone that never rings. This story is far from over, so tell me in the comments, has Charles lost you too? Because judging by last week, I think I already know the answer. 2 more videos are on your screen right now. Pick one because you won't believe what else came out this week.